Hello again and welcome back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. I'm Dave, and in this video we're going to be taking a look and a listen to this, which is the Gear4Music Chicago 4-string bass. It's one of the more sort of affordable, lower cost basses on the market, so I thought, as well as just looking at this bass in particular, we'll have a general discussion about like lower cost, more affordable gear. If you want to fast forward directly to that, then go to this point in the video. If you want to know about the bass, stick around and let's get into it. So the story was, I got this bass. I'm not a bass player by any means, but I wanted just a bass around the studio for doing a bit of recording with. I'm not much of a bass connoisseur, so I couldn't really justify spending lots and lots of money on a bass. So this seemed like a decent compromise. Gear4Music, if you don't know them, they're a little bit like Thomann, maybe not quite as big, and they've got outlets in quite a few European countries. The one in the UK is at York. Huge warehouse to sell all sorts of music gear, guitars, bass, drums, keyboards, PA, live music stuff. I think they do orchestral stuff as well, accessories, loads and loads of stuff. Lots of almost like Pilot High, sell a cheap box shifter type stuff. I've used them quite a bit. I prefer the bricks and mortar store, but sometimes, because they're so big, Gear4Music will have things that are a little bit harder to track down elsewhere. And because they're so big, they've got their own brands. Sub-Zero is like a house brand for them, and they also do some stuff under the Gear4Music brand as well. So what exactly have we got with this bass? Well, it's quite a versatile bass, really. It's got a P and J pickup, master volume and master tone for each, so a variety of sounds, which we'll get into in a second. Construction wise, my first impression of this bass was kind of weird. It was bought during lockdown, so I purchased it through the website, and then a courier arrived the following day to deliver it to me. When I got the box, I thought, oh no, I must have pressed the wrong button when I placed the order. I've got the 3/4 size one, I've got the short scale. This is not the bass that I ordered, because it was so light. This is a very, very lightweight bass, mostly because of the body. The body is made out of a wood called paulownia. It's a quite fast growing, very light, relatively soft wood actually. It's not ideal really for guitar bodies, but we're talking about something that's at the lower end of the market. This was a £129 bass. For £129, as well as the bass, it's obviously geared more towards the beginner market, so you get a lead, a strap, a plectrum. I won't call it a gig bag, but like a soft case, so there's a fair bit in there. So obviously compromises have to be made. It's quite a lightweight body. The neck though is maple, really nice piece of maple, and the fingerboard is, it says on the spec sheet, poplar laminate. It's a bit dark. I'm not used to seeing poplar that dark, so I think there's a bit of staining going on. It's not a badly constructed bass though, but like I say, the body is kind of light. As you can see, the top horn is quite long. When you put it on a strap, it's kind of at the limit of it's going to start giving me a bit of neck dive, because the body is so light compared to the neck. 34-inch scale length, so it's quite a long neck, if you know what I mean, to try and balance with quite a lightweight body. But aside from that first impression of how light it is, it's quite a nicely put together bass. The neck says maple. The back of that is just oiled finish, which is probably my favourite finish for a neck, because it feels nice and smooth. The nut is just black plastic. The nut slots are cut to the right depth, but it was really raggedy cutting. There was little bits of like stray bits of like plastic shavings sticking out the nut. It's obviously made to a budget, shall we say. Finish on the body, there's a choice of colours in the range. I went for the sunburst. There's a thick poly lacquer, which is what you'd expect at this price point. It's not badly finished, But if you stack it up against something at a much higher price, then certainly you do notice that there's little inconsistencies in the lacquer. I don't think the wood's been sanded really well before they put the lacquer on. There's a few little scratches in the finish, literally underneath the lacquer. But like I say, we're doing this at a price point, and if the compromises are on the like the cosmetic side rather than on the playability, then I'm happy to make those compromises. 4-bolt neck joint. There's no neck plate. It's like screws with little recessed washers, which is really nice, and a little bit of contouring, so access up to the 24th fret, or 24 frets, is all quite good. So yeah, it sits quite nicely. It's a little bit neck heavy, but not catastrophically so. And first impressions were, yeah, it's quite a nice bass. So let's hear how it sounds. So as I say, it's got a precision style, P style pickup here, and a jazz J style pickup at the bridge. Each one with a volume and tone. So let's hear the jazz pickup. So this is with the tone up full. Yeah, that sounds pretty good really for this price point. Let's just take the tone down. Tone midway. Yeah, that's not a bad sounding pickup really. Moving on to the precision pickup. So this is it with the tone up full. So with the tone all the way down. The tone about midway. That's not bad. And we've obviously, with having a volume control for each pickup, we can blend them in. So this is both pickups together. And obviously you could have any sort of blend of the two, so you could have all jazz pickup and say 50% P pickup. Or the other way around, all P pickup and 50% J. Yeah, so there's plenty sounds on offer, and for the cost, not a bad sounding pickup really. As I say, I'm not a connoisseur of bass guitar. For me, plenty adequate for my use case. Now, as I say, it's built to a price. Sounds wise, it's kind of okay. If you take that pickup, so that control cavity cover off, as I did, those potentiometers in there, they really do look like the cheapest of the cheap. They're very small. I don't know how hard wearing they're likely to be. You know, the bridge is quite a nice design, but it feels like it's possibly not the highest quality of metal, but it does the job. You know, for a around the studio occasional use, for a beginner bass, I think it's plenty good enough, and for the money, pretty good value for money really. For £129, there's a lot of playability here. As I said, the compromises in quality tend to be a little bit around the finish, which is just cosmetic. It doesn't affect the playability. I've had this for quite a while now. Like I said, this was a lockdown purchase, so we're going back a wee while for when I got this. One thing I have noticed is there's quite a bit of wear. Well, not quite a bit of wear, but there is noticeable wear on the frets. Now, bear in mind that I play with quite a light touch. I can't remember the last time I had to get a guitar fret dressed or refretted. Oh, have I ever? I don't think I've ever had to get a guitar fret dressed or refretted because of fretware that I've put onto it. I've had guitars refretted because I want different profile fret wire, or I've got second-hand guitars and I've had to rectify somebody else's fretware. But I don't think my touch is pretty light, so I'm concerned that this isn't a heavily used bass. I don't fret heavily on it, but the fact that fretware is showing is kind of that's one of the areas where they made some compromises. It's not the hardest, highest quality fret wire. I wouldn't expect stainless steel at this price point. It's nickel silver, but I think it's possibly not the highest quality of nickel silver. The finishing on the fret job is pretty good. There's no sharp fret ends, no fret sprout or anything like that. It's nicely put together. Setup wise, out of the box, the action was as high as I'd want to take it, but it was playable. So it's a bass that you're going to just be using at home, like as a beginner bass, which I think really what this is aimed at, or just a casual bass like I'm using it here. It's perfectly fine. I don't think it would stand up to the rigors of touring, being used on hot and sweaty stages where you've got perspiration going into the pickups or into the potentiometers. I think that I'd be a bit worried about the durability. Like I said, the body made out of paulownia. It's not a hard wood, so the idea of this getting taken in and out of gigs and shipping and traveling around a lot, I don't know how well it would stand up to the rigors of that. But that's not the use case. If you're playing in that sort of environment, you've kind of gone up a level or two with your bass playing, and you would be looking for a better instrument, I think. So all told, for £129, quite a lot of bass for the money, and yeah, I don't regret the purchase. If you're not familiar with Gear4Music, like I say, they are a big retailer, a bit of a box shifter, and they have lots of variations. So you can get this bass in a variety of colours. You can get it in fretless in a variety of colours. You can get it in 5 strings in a variety of colours. You can get it in shorter scale length in a variety of colours. There's lots and lots of choice there. This is the Chicago model. They do one called the LA, which is a little bit similar, but it's got like a scratch plate on it, and they've got all sorts of other ones. There's lots and lots of choice. This video is not sponsored or anything by Gear4Music. I'm just kind of relaying my experiences with this particular instrument. I'd say, generally speaking, they are positive, acknowledging how much I paid for it and where this is kind of pitched in the market. I've got a lot of time for this. It's a nice little bass guitar. Well, not so little. So that's the bass. What I do want to talk about, though, is just like the budget end of the market generally. So I wanted a cheap bass. I couldn't justify the expense of anything, particularly flash. I could have got a bass for a lot less than this. If you look around, people like Gear4Music, Thomann, various other retailers, particularly the online retailers, you can get basses and guitars often for less than £100. I'm not going to name particular brand names or anything. That's not really relevant to the discussion. But when you're looking at guitars and at the lower price points, yes, lower cost if you're on a budget is better, but you need to bear in mind when you're paying less, where are the compromises being made. Now, looking at this instrument, I'm happy with the compromises that are made. The general fit and finish is kind of okay. Like I say, cosmetically, there's a few things which I would not expect to find on a instrument costing hundreds and hundreds of pounds more, but on something that costs £129, including the bag and various other bits and bobs, those shortcomings are acceptable to me. When you buy lower cost instruments, you might find things like the fretwork isn't particularly good, or frets haven't been leveled, crowned and polished particularly well. You know, those things are fixable at your local guitar store. You can take it to the technician there and they can do a fret dress, a full setup or whatever. But that's going to cost money. So you might say, wow, I've got a guitar for £100 or £110 or whatever. But then I've had to pay £50 or £60 or more to get it playable. Suddenly becomes, buying a cheaper instrument becomes a bit of a false economy. You know? So you've got to think, if there's so many corners being cut to get it down to a price point, the corners that are being cut just degrade the quality of the instrument so much that it's not a viable option for you, particularly if you're a beginner, because there's going to be certain things that compromise the playability to the degree that it's hard for you to play, particularly as a beginner, where everything's going to be a struggle anyway, and it's going to put you off. There's a certain point where you say, I need to buy a certain degree of quality. You know, buying gear doesn't make you a better player, but there's a certain point where the quality of the gear is so much it impairs your playing, if you see what I mean, and you kind of need to get into the marketplace above that point, so you've got something that you can get on with, and it's not going to just put you off the instrument as a beginner. The other thing that I always consider on price is, has the price been brought down so much at the expense of not so much the quality of the instrument, but the quality of the working environment for the people who make it? And I don't want to get all political here, but you know, generally the cheaper instruments, they are coming from the Far East. Typically, you know, stuff like this, it's made in China, because manufacturing in China is cheaper. The cost of living in China is less than elsewhere, so the cost of workers is less, and that can be reflected in the price. But I'm always mindful that there's a certain point where, you know, you still need to be paying those workers a living wage, and the factory where the instrument's being made, it, you know, needs to have decent levels of safety and protection for the workers. If they're cutting the price to the absolute bone, I'd start to worry, is this instrument so cheap because they're paying the workers peanuts, they're slave driving them to really churn out more instruments than they can comfortably make in a working day, and they're getting run ragged and having to work ridiculously long hours, or they're not getting like the level of health and safety that they should have. So that's something that kind of scares me off lower cost instruments as well. Now, I'm in quite a nice position that I can afford to get something a bit more expensive if I want to, but if you are shopping at the lower end of the market, the lower costs, you need to shop with your conscience as well a little bit, and think about not just where the corners are being cut with the instrument as it's sitting in your hands, but also where the corners are being cut in terms of manufacturing, you know, right the way through the process, because there might be something in there that actually that's not right, if you see what I mean. I also often see on like discussion forums and things like that, people going on about, oh, I got this, you know, for argument's sake, a Harley Benton or a Donner or, you know, Gear4Music or Sub-Zero or whatever guitar, and it's awesome, it's great, it plays as well as any custom shop, you know, plays like butter, blah blah blah. Now, when I read comments like that, you know, I'm not being snobbish, but I wonder if some of that is, it's like kind of like purchase validation, that you bought something more budget, but you just want to kind of convince yourself that no, it's a really, really good guitar. It's awesome. It's better than any custom shop. Or is it that your frame of reference, you've played a truly atrocious custom shop guitar that's been set up badly, it's been abused? Because I can tell you, I've got a budget over here. I've got an Epiphone Wildcat that was about 300 and something pounds. So a decent but affordable guitar. I've also got a Fender custom shop Strat that cost comfortably a good number of four figures. and there's definitely a difference. If I didn't have that Custom Shop Strat as a frame of reference, I only have the Wildcat as a frame of reference. Yeah, the Wildcat is perfectly good, it's perfectly playable. I did have to get a few bits and bobs done to it to improve it as it came out of the factory, but it's perfectly okay. But it isn't as good as a Custom Shop instrument, because I've played the Custom Shop. I appreciate the certain little touches in the build quality and the way that that Custom Shop guitar is made, that if I'd never played one, I wouldn't have those as a frame of reference, and I would be quite happy with the Wildcat. But having played both, when I play the Wildcat, I recognise certain shortcomings compared to, you know, a Custom Shop Strat or like a custom built guitar there, like my Thompson, or like my Williams Evo or something like that. Because I have more experience in different guitars, I have certain things that I recognise. By way of an analogy, it's a bit like if the only pizza you've ever had is, you know, frozen pizza from the supermarket. You're quite happy with that. That's what pizza tastes like. You like the taste. You know, it's all good. But if we then went to you know, a decent pizza restaurant, high street pizza place, and we had dinner there, you go, oh right, yeah, this pizza's different. I recognise there's a subtlety of flavour, the quality of the base. It's a little bit crispier. The ingredients taste a little bit fresher. Now you got a frame of reference. You can still enjoy your frozen pizza from the supermarket, but you recognise where it falls short. And you might say, yeah, the restaurant pizza is so much better. But, you know, if I took you, we went to my favourite pizza, my favourite restaurant in Sorrento in Italy. It's 9 o'clock at night. The pizza oven's nice and hot. It comes out just perfect. That is pizza. That's better than what you would get in a high street restaurant. You know, that's like getting the best of the best custom shop or hand built bespoke instrument. And again, because I've been to Sorrento, I've had some absolutely awesome pizzas in Italy. I've got a frame of reference now for I kind of know where my local high street pizza chain falls short a little bit. But it doesn't make the local high street pizza bad. It's just different. I recognise the quality of something that's a little bit better. And now I really, really want pizza. Anyway, I'm going off at a tangent there. But yes, lower budget guitars, lower budget instruments, compromises have to be made. They don't have to be bad. And if you're a beginner and you don't have the frame of reference of what a custom shop instrument is like, then a lot of times they're perfectly adequate. You just need to recognise the limitations. They're not going to be as well built. They're not going to be as tough. They're not going to stand up to the rigours of, you know, gigs and, you know, gig after gig, tour after tour. But if you're just, you know, playing at home, going around jamming with your friends occasionally, then they're perfectly adequate for the job, as is the case, say, with this Chicago bass from Gear4Music. Okay, so there you go, some thoughts on the Gear4Music Chicago bass and budget instruments in general. Hope you found that all interesting. If you did, please click the like button down there, and please click the subscribe button as well if you want to get notified of any new videos that I upload on the channel, and click the bell icon so you get notifications of any new uploads. You're welcome to leave a comment. Don't always get notified by YouTube when people leave comments on videos though, so if there's something specific you want to ask me, whether it's about guitar gear, guitar playing, music theory, anything at all, you're better off going here, fill that form in, you can send your question in, it comes direct to me, and that way I can get around to answering it in a future video. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.